tinfoil hat, all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Thanks, Nightwalk. This is Dave and Mecky's Shiny Side Out. Broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on, and this is the website name, Revolution, and then a full stop, radio. We call it revolution.radio. That is home to fresh ideas and conversations, and you can join us in the chat room. I'm there right now, so you can talk to me while I'm on air. And if you're listening to this on YouTube in the future, this is the 17th of November 2024 episode, or show number 662. That is 662 weeks of being on air. We do one show a week, and that's the amount of weeks we've been on air. Let me just reiterate. When you're at the website, don't forget to get yourself some great merchandise and donate to the station as well, because it's not free to run all of the servers, and they've got the servers in the cloud now. They used to be all on Nighthawk's own premises, and he ran everything from there. Now, sadly, Nighthawk is no longer with us. He passed away a number of years ago, and I never got to meet him in real life, in person, not at all. I did plan before COVID came along. I planned to take the family over to the US. I did go to high school in California, and I went to Canyon High. Fantastic, in Anaheim Hills. Really, really nice place. And if anyone knows Stu Mundell from Sky Fox, and he does all those police pursuits and things like that from the helicopter. I didn't go to school with him or anything, but he's filmed a number of times along Imperial and on the, I think it's the 101, the 105, whatever it is, 101. And I've asked him live on air if he could just pan the camera up and show Canyon High. And he asked me, we've chatted and on Instagram, and he asked why, because I went to high school there. And so I'd love to be able to get him on this show and maybe just do a one-off interview with him and find out what his likes and dislikes have been, because he's kind of a superstar now. Everyone knows who he is. And other commentators of those police chases from the helicopter, they try to be him. He's the gold standard by far, and love his work. Anyway, moving on with the intro, I got a little sidetracked. That does happen. Join us in the chat room. I said that. You can talk to us while we're on air. And I say us because it's usually Mecky and I. Mecky's having trouble getting home. Again, he said he left me a message, but I can't see anything, so maybe he can join us hopefully this hour or in the second hour, and that's not a problem. And I hope you guys don't mind either. And like I said, if you're on YouTube and watching this or listening to this is YouTube hold an archive of our stuff mostly, and if it's been removed because of community standards, there are all of the shows that were removed that we could recover anyway, and they're on Rumble under the same titles. So if you're looking for something, for instance, Shiny Side Out, and then either news or a show topic, if you just type 3 words, shiny and side and out, as 3 separate words, you're into either of those. There you go. But I'm going to ask you to do a favor for me, please. That's like, comment, share, and subscribe. Can you please? It'd be awesome to see that. I'm not asking you to buy merchandise from us, even though we have some. If you want a co-branded Revolution Radio and Shiny Side Out mug, it's 20 ounce. It's pretty good. You can use it for a nice morning coffee like I do, or in winter time after you've had your coffee and you're hovering around the kitchen for lunch, maybe you can warm up some soup in it. It's really nice. They're good quality stuff. I've actually got a hoodie as well, which is it's also co-branded. It's quite nice. No funds go from our our merch to the station. If you wish to support the station, do that directly through the website, and they've got every way to be able to pay. They've even got a QR code that you can pay the crypto if you want. You can send them a check, that works, or EFT, I suppose, if you know what I'm talking about, direct deposit. Whatever you wish, there's a way of being able to do it. Now, we ask that if you enjoy anything that we say, if we make you laugh or we make you think, or we told you something you haven't heard before, please help support the station. That's number one. That's Nighthawk, gave me a platform, and I pulled Meccy in, and now we have 2 different shows on the same platform. We have Plato's Cave twice a week, and we have Shiny Side Out once a week. But you can tune in. If you don't know, if you caught this on YouTube, there's actually a whole website you can go to, and if you've got an app on your phone, you can listen to us anywhere at all. It's one of those talk radio apps, or you can listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. You can do that. Now, our show comes after one of the best people on the station, and that's Solaris. Tonight she had Madeline Rudy on as a co-host, not just a guest, but a co-host, and they discussed everything. I believe it. I missed it, but I'm going to jump in the archives and download a copy. It's in MP3 format, so it's really easy. I can just listen to it when I want. I like to listen to them in groups. So, hosts usually have either half an hour, or 2 hour shows. Some of them are like Jer Bear has a 4-hour show. And my only 4-hour show that we did, I think we did 2 of them. One was, I think, show 100, and the other one was an interview with Bernie Mendez. Bernie Mendez. Now, he crawled out of the shadows to do an interview with one of the hosts on Revolution Radio, and his claim was that he was in the Jump Room program, and it's maybe look, our audio back then, we were young. We were young to broadcast media, so our microphones weren't fantastic. I think I had the flu, so I had a cough as well, and we didn't have a mute button, and I do, as much as possible, hit the mute on the microphone if I've got some problem going on, but I don't always get to it in time. But anyway, so he was on, I think, for 2 hours before my show, and then we did an extended show for another 4 hours with him. We asked him if he'd just, keep rolling, and he did. And then we got 4 hours, and then we handed over to another host, and he kept going. I don't think ever to be heard of again. I don't know, but there was a lot of information there, and it is one of our more popular shows on YouTube, the Bernie Mendez interview. But be amazed, he was claiming that Obama was in the Jump Room program with him, and then when it all came out later that Obama's birth certificate seemed at the time to some people that it was manufactured. It wasn't a flat PDF file. It was still in layers. It looked like this is the description of it, not mine, that the work experience kid had issued it out to the public, but it was still in layers. They hadn't flattened it. It wasn't a flat file. So that was a big giveaway to show that it had been constructed and didn't come through the normal method. Is it true? Don't know. Is it possible? It's possible that Obama had a history in either the Secret Service or something that we weren't entitled to learn. It raised so many questions. Why would the government issued birth certificate, why would it still be stacked in layers? It doesn't make any sense unless it was altered. And if it were altered, why was it altered? And what was it covering up? So they're all really good questions to ask. I'm not saying that I know any answers. I don't. And did it all disappear? Sure. What happened to that the sheriff who discovered it, don't know. And why did all that information disappear? Was someone paid not to talk about it anymore? I don't know. So, moving on. I swallowed my saliva the wrong way. Access to the archives is free at Revolution Radio, so you can just download a whole bunch of shows. In fact, you could download all of our shows. I think they're 180 meg each for the 2 hours, and you get the all the bumpers and everything inside it. So you can listen to that. You can fast forward through them. You can do whatever you want, but do donate to the station that we ask that. Now, because Mackie is late, I'm broadcasting out of Darkinjung country, and Mackie is usually in Daruk country. And we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, past, present, and future. Now, I really had not expected to be alone, but that doesn't matter, and it's not going to be a pinchy and stingy show. The old Krusty the Clown 72 hours broadcasting from the emergency broadcast system bunker outside of Springfield, where he has a Scorpion and a battery. And he's trying to enact the Itchy and Scratchy show with those two, and it's very funny. It's not going to be like that. I'm hoping to better get through some things. And let's start. So, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today, and we always have a good laugh. Whether the world is going south on us, whether geopolitics is going south, if it's the economy, if there's a trend here going south, whatever it is, if there are policies getting put through by our government going south, whatever it is, we try to have a bit of a laugh. And if it were possible to be able to acquire an income for us to produce something not similar at all by any means, a Robot Chicken or Simpsons or Family Guy or American Dad, but our uniquely own styled humor, in that I think we'd have more than enough material. Maybe on a fortnightly basis, I think we could release something interesting there. There's a team of a lot of my friends. We all have very similar, let's call it humor, but they join in the middle like a Venn diagram, but we all come from different places, so someone always has something to add to it, which would be very funny. And we build a joke rather than leaving it as one layer. They end up being multi-layer gags, and I think the big reveals are always very funny. So if my friend is listening, because he does listen occasionally to the show, you inspire me, man. Yeah, good on you. And we always have a good laugh, and it doesn't matter what's going on. It could be, as we've seen, we're currently in the geopolitical worst position that has ever been, ever. Back when it was almost equivalently worse, the same, to the same geopolitical detriment, I suppose, or at the same level, if you will, we didn't have nuclear weapons. So World War I and World War II being a carryover from World War I, truly, historians agree that they're not two separate conflicts with nothing to do with each other. No, there was a carry through from one. In fact, the Boer War, the one that was never really discussed, my grandfather served in World War I. Yeah, so, and then I think was in World War II as well. He served 3. He came home after that, and he died, not of his injuries or anything, but he died an old man, having seen way too much for any human. Anyway, that aside, I'll say this openly. I know Meki's not with us at the moment, but I hope he does join us. He could be listening on the way in his car driving home, and the traffic can't be good, and we're due to get some storms roll through somewhere between now or maybe just near the end of the show or within an hour of the show concluding. So we're hoping he'll get hit first, and I'm a bit later. I'm like half an hour later, so at least one of us would still be carrying the show. It doesn't matter. We'll get to the end. Hopefully he can make it. So my grandparents, and my uncle for that matter as well, my uncle, who's also deceased, he was in the bombing raids over Dresden, and Meki, his grandparents were living in Dresden. Now, we don't hold any animosity between us, and that's one of those rare things that I didn't grow up hating on any particular group of people at all. At all. I can't imagine what it would be like if we grew up. I don't care who's listening to this. If you grew up in a family that had a hatred for another, now it could be family living in your neighborhood, it could be a race issue, it could be a country geopolitical issue, you could be oppressed by a certain group. There's so many different options available. Your country could have been, I'm not going to say assimilated, but under British rule for some time, and now they're not, or it continues for some reason. I'm not sure. Whatever those ideals are that you grew up with, I didn't have those. I didn't hate on the monarchy. It was just what I knew. I don't hate on them now, and they're still, we're still beneath Great Britain for that. But saying that if I grew up as a child in any war-torn country at the moment, would I continue willfully my parents' hatred or learned hatred for the people, my oppressors, whoever they are? Or it was like the McCoys and the whoever they were, I forget the Midwestern story, yeah? What was the other name? Someone in the chat room, throw me a bone. It was something in the McCoys, wasn't it? The story. Anyway, whatever. I don't hold those. I just don't. I wasn't born of a skin color in a country anywhere that didn't match that of the others, who was isolated, either financially, politically, or governmentally. I wasn't separated. I can only imagine. You can say that I've got white privilege, whatever you like. You can say whatever you like. I didn't grow up with any animosity towards anybody at all. Our country, we did take from and pushed aside. Oh, the Hatfields, thanks, Gear Jammer. So the Hatfields and the McCoys. Thank you. Gem, it really is. That's why I like the chat room. And I'm going to say hello to Maced, Gear Jammer, Lavender Streams, Batsman, who else is in there? Amiga Legos. Thank you so much for being there. And that's right, the Hatfields and the McCoys. So I didn't grow up with any of that, and because of that, I'm lucky. I'm very, very lucky not to have that as the baseline of every thought and every conversation, or the way that would place you in society, the way that would crush you, depending on which side you're on, yeah? But in the Hatfields and the McCoys, that the two youngest of them fall in love, and they know that it's a forbidden thing and they're not allowed to do it. And I think that's Romeo and Juliet, right, as well. So look, it's a classic tale. I don't want to. Oh, there's the storm coming through. Look at Gearjammer doing all the right things. Yeah. So the storms are going to be pretty fierce. I'm not sure about the rainfall we're due to get, but anywhere between 20 maybe and 50 mil or something like that in an hour. But as the evening goes on, the temperature's already falling, and so the temperature gradient between the cold front that's coming through, the trough carrying the moisture, and the trailing air, that gradient is decreasing. So you need at least 10 degrees Celsius for that to worsen the storm, because you get more updraft, and therefore you get higher clouds, and the nimbus clouds don't get reached as far. It could be 10 kilometers or even 15 kilometers in height. You might be seeing something like that. Nearly 10 miles. That'd be 16. So, luckily, the temperature's dropping in the lead up to it. There's still crazy humidity, though. You don't want to be outside doing any kind of exercise at all. It just washes off you. It's just streams. So anyway, I'm pleased to hear, Gearjammer, that you are sober, and you're perfectly sober. And even though you don't like it, I get you. If you live in New South Wales and you like motor racing, you can find me up on the mountain at Bathurst during the motor racing. I actually missed today's last race of the season in Adelaide 500. I missed that today, so I was too busy. Thunder Snow is far out, yeah. So if you're ever around for the Bathurst 1000, I'm up there, and you can always message me on any messaging platform that you can find me on, and say hello, and I'm going to be there, but I may not be sober, and that was the segue. So, now, because I didn't grow up with any of those things, I can't imagine actually doing it. I find it difficult to understand if it's oppression. I understand oppression. I'm not belittling anything. I can't imagine how difficult it would be, though I can imagine quite a bit. I wouldn't want to swap. I would gratefully swap if it helped you, and for me to understand what it would be like. But yeah, I'm watching the world forget how bad it is. I'm watching the world calling. What's the best way to put this? When you're a child and you're playing, and there's a bunch, say you've got 10 kids or something like that, and you want to split into 2 teams, but how do you do that fairly so you're quickly identifiable? Well, one you'll play probably shirts and skins is what we used to call it when I was a kid. And so you would nominate 2 leaders out of the group, and they would pick the other 4 kids, and one side would have to go skins. That means you just took your top off and then you played. That way it could kind of be fair, I suppose, right? There was no advantage or disadvantage of having a top or not having a top. It was just how we played. So I can't for the life of me see the trouble. I imagine it, but I don't. I'm not talking from a position that I've had to live through that, and I'm sorry that that's what people are going through. When I look around at geopolitics and I see wars, without naming any of them, I'm totally disappointed. I really had thought that land grabs were off the table. I thought, wrongly, that, because I can be wrong. I'm okay to be wrong. I'm correct in saying I'm wrong. Oh, that sounds so terrible. No, I'm humbled. I'm humbled by it. So I thought the UN, as toothless as they are, I thought the UN would quell people's or countries' desire, the actual desire. Yeah, see, I told you. Humidity, 84%. Yeah. And 22, 23 degrees, that's probably what we're at. So, anyway. So, I thought that would happen, but it never did. And no one did anything about, Russia taking Ukraine's Crimea. No one did anything. Yeah, sure, you can have it. No one's going to really stop you. All right, then. So, not going to stop you. How about we just take some more of it? They didn't stop us last time. That's a really good question. Why didn't we? And why don't we get involved as the world police? Why don't we get involved in every other conflict? Because it's not worth anything is the right answer. I would have accepted Pepsi. If you're a Simpsons fan, you know what I'm talking about. Now, having said that, I will name them. Why not? So, Israel versus everybody who hates on them. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of countries. I'm disappointed again at the ferocity, I suppose, of the hatred that everyone seems to have. Doesn't matter where you go, I suppose. And why is it? I'm not questioning Israel here, or Lebanon, or Iran, for that matter, or even the Houthis. US is in there, and it's another carrier group going in. I thought we were better than this. I really did. I thought the world was better than this. I thought the UN was listening to people, and when you listen to people, you can quell a lot of this drama. Once you start to make clicks, like, I don't know, everyone else in the world except for this shirts and skins idea, everyone else in the world except for China, Iran, North Korea, South Africa, even India, questionably, a kind of a little pairy, let's just pair up a little bit because, trade. Now, the two sides are not favourable. It isn't like there's a third party that's going to be any threat anytime soon. So Russia's in there as well, I suppose, right? So that's where the disappointment starts. Now, Russia's got its own issues, and it dislikes NATO entirely. Entirely. It says, well, there's no reason to have them. Okay, prove it. What are you doing now that might be if NATO didn't exist, it would exist today. Without the US. And the US is only there because, world police. But if NATO didn't exist at the taking of Crimea, then it would exist today. And everyone else except for Russia would be part of it, like the greater European countries. Because here we go again. We got some land grabbing going on. That's not right. And Russia says, well, if NATO does anything against us, it's game on for a World War III. Yeah, but you're the aggressor, you pork chop. What are you doing? I'm having a conversation with myself since Meg's not here yet. So, I'm saddened and disappointed that it is the way it is. There's enough minerals in the world for everybody. There's enough food for everybody in the whole world if we only shared it amongst each other and didn't only provide it to those who have money. We only ship it to the people with money. And that means we're skipping the people that don't have money. And at the moment, I'm one of those. We don't have money. We have no money. Totally skint, broke as getting food from the food bank. Like, I'm pretending it's like rations, like we're in World War III already and then we're just having to eat rations. However they are, whatever the condition, that's what I'm eating. And do you know what? It's the best humble pie I've ever eaten. Because I never thought I would be here. So as a prepping kind of idea with the status of the world, North Korea sending, agreeing with Russia to send troops, and I'm sure Russia's giving North Korea some weapons and things that are from the 80s in trade. Yeah, probably something like that. It'll be some kind of deal, maybe some food, who knows. Whatever it is, there'd be a deal, and because it's just business, war is business. And whatever you gain in business is yours. It's like buying a company that's smaller than you or even bigger than you just for the IP, just for the patents they have, or whatever they did that made them popular and worthwhile buying. And then when you've bought them, you own them because you've bought them title and everything. And so, does Russia really want all that land? Oh yeah, but it wants the whole of the Ukraine. It wants to increase its, back to the olden days. Let's just do that. Let's make the USSR again, because it was good then. Let's do it again. Now, is that the right thing to do? I doubt it. You could have asked, and if they said no, then it's on you. Did you ask nicely? Two narcissists trying to do a trade, no one's going to walk away with anything. There'll always be no. Unless both people get something of value. So I'm disappointed, like you said. I'm disappointed in the planet. These big distractions, like the current election that's just concluded. In Australia, our Prime Minister has decided to accidentally let out of the bag today that there's going to be an election in May. Good for you. It was part of a sentence where he said, we're going to release the new budget in March and the election's in May. Well, it could be in May. And the interviewer goes, May? Really? The election's in May? I didn't say that. You just did, you pork chop. Right? Sorry, I call everyone a pork chop. It isn't an offensive word. And it's... I had lamb chops last night, but my dad used it while we were driving. Rather than swearing, he chose that combination of letters to be able to denounce someone's driving skill by calling them a pork chop. And only since I've been around 50 years old and older have I again adopted that phrase. I think when you realize you turn into your own father, well, that's that. And so now I race online, and under my breath, no one can hear it. Sometimes they can. Sometimes I'll call someone out for being a pork chop, and they don't understand what I'm talking about. I can't help it. At least I didn't swear. That's probably the best way of putting it. And it's not even a replacement word because it's meaningless. It's not like, oh shoot, instead of saying the swear word. Where it's still a word in place in the phrase, grammatically correct, with a similar sounding letters, except for the vowel has changed. No, I'm saying this because you know that I'm intending to say something terrible about them, but I don't really. And comparing them to a cut of meat is just as absurd. I could call them something else. So comedians try really hard. This is a bit of a side note here, but comedians try hard not to truly offend people. And I was a big fan of Tosh.0 And I don't know what ever happened to that comedian and his show. Probably got banned or something like that. Or it just wasn't renewed for another season. But he was in trouble for comparing someone in a joke to like a cartoon character. And they tried to get him for defamation. And he said, well, my comparison is this. The cartoon character is fictional. So how am I defaming someone by making that comparison? And that was a really good question. I'm not sure if they won. He won a lot. But, yeah. So look, harmlessly calling someone a pork chop. It should be a time for reflection upon the person that I've anointed this title, for them to reassess themselves and their abilities. Man, I thought you said poor chap. No, pork chop is definitely what I said. But anyway, because someone will do something quite silly. Say you're driving along and you crash into one of the concrete barriers on the side on a road course, and you apply the brakes to pull the car up. But if you don't apply the brakes, your car can kind of like pinball from one side of the track across, hit the other side, and then bounce back into the middle of the track. But if you had your brakes on, it would have only collided with the first one, then come to a slow rest. And a pork chop would be someone, for instance, who didn't apply the brakes and pinballed across. And every time that they've passed across the track, they've then collided with other people and then caused a multiple car incident, possibly causing a red flag or a yellow flag. So that is a pork chop. Someone who cuts you off, pork chop. Someone who brakes mid-corner, in the middle of the apex, for some reason. That's when you should be accelerating. But, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Everything's good. Anyway, so I wanted to talk to a couple, and I actually hate that expression. I'm going to talk about some news stories that I've seen. We're 39 minutes in. I haven't got an update yet. Maybe I do. From Meki. Let me have a look. Emma's birthday party went overtime. Okay, that's not a problem. Happy birthday. So, let me see. There was something. I know the Philippines had 14 meters. Think about a wave coming in. It's 14 meters. That was their storm surge from Typhoon Man-yi that just hit the Philippines, and that's just something else. Let me bring that story up for those people who are watching this online. So, just like tsunamis, the waves had risen 14 meters above sea level, and it's just crazy how quickly you can lose sight of your economy, your natural way of operating, businesses, your home can get destroyed, people's lives. You could be knocked over by it, then swept out to sea, a whole bunch of problems. And fully clothed, you might not be in your slick swimsuit, being able to swim readily against the current, or laterally to the current, which is what you should do when you rip. Sadly, it just isn't good. And we talk about, Meki and I talk about the severity of storms, and everyone will remember some storm that was terrible as well, but it's the frequency of the storms we're seeing. I think there was one that's going through the Gulf of Mexico at the moment, or something like that. I'm not from that part of the world. I live in Australia. So, Ruthless Baddest Ginsburger says in the chat, he says, once I knew a hitman who went by Meatball. Now, if you're racing a car, a meatball is the black flag with the orange circle in the middle, the orange ball, and it means that you must come in when you go past the pits the next time. It means you've got damage and you can be black flagged if you don't come in. So that's interesting. someone would be called Meatball. Wow, goodness me. Nice story, man. Thank you very much. Now, here's something really interesting. Someone says intersection there. Where I live, there are roadworks going on, and the roadworks take a very long time. For what they are, they took a really long time. I mean, a few years to get, I don't know, a mile of a 4-lane road. Like 2 years. It's the last time I think I made a joke about it, there was only one guy working, and he would get out of the grader and walk to the big rolling machine, and he would get into that, the steamroller, and then he would roll backwards or forwards on that for a while, and then he would get into the truck that dumped the gravel down, and he would put that down, then he'd get back in the grader and flatten that out, and then get back in the roll. There was only one guy. There was no observer, there was no OH&S. Normally, to do anything and drive anywhere, you need, road safety, road control, safety control. You need observers at all time to be looking at everything going on and be able to stop work immediately should there be some kind of someone in danger. Power lines need to be observed, and safety mechanisms put over those power lines, so they, if you do happen to touch one with some machine, you won't be electrocuted by it. All these things. But there is this one guy. Right? Anyway, so as recent as yesterday, there were about every 50 meters down the street of maybe 3 kilometers of roadway, they all intersect across a very small bridge, and in every direction there were measuring devices being put in. So they were erecting star pickets, like dual star pickets, and putting a box at about head height, plastic, like hard case with electronics in it, and then posts going up about maybe another 6 feet. And on top of those posts would either be a camera or microphones. And I'm a member of a group on Facebook, which is our suburb name and the surrounds, which is really cool. So that there's some community overlap between each one of our suburb names. And I'm a member of a couple of them that go around where I live, which is nice. And I saw people get out of their car, park their car, and observe these boxes, and then look up and see either the camera or the microphones. Now, I know that it's survey equipment. It's not to enforce, it's not law enforcement. They're not looking for, which we do have. We have mobile phone use cameras, and we also have seatbelt identification cameras that will identify whether you're wearing a seatbelt or not, and they're in the infrared, and the phones are also visible by these same cameras, and AI will screen every person going by for them either using the seatbelt or using their phone or whatever, right? And then they issue you a fine based on your car's license plate. Now you can fight it by saying, it wasn't me driving, and you need to have proof, blah, 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 blah. So the conspiracy theories were going wild, I tells you. And there's a company called Oz Traffic, AUS Traffic, all one word, so you can look it up on your own. And they do traffic surveys. So sometimes you might just see 2 rubber, look like rubber cables stretching across all the lanes of traffic to a small box, usually chained to a telegraph pole or something, electrical pole, a light pole. And they're doing counters. So they have a little, every time both of those are struck, there is a count of 1 saying it's a vehicle. So they're struck by 2 sets of wheels, It's usually in a straight stretch of road, so that your wheels are going to be parallel to those when you hit them. And everyone knows that they count the amount of vehicles going through. And if there's going to be roadworks at some point or road improvement, they're counting the amount of vehicles. They're making, not guessed estimates, but these are going to be actual figures, so they get to know. And then after the improvements, they can look at how the traffic flow is occurring, either on a daily rate or an hourly rate or whatever, and they can see that. Now this is exactly the same, and the cameras themselves are looking for the traffic density, and the microphones can pick up whether the vehicles are stationary or moving, and they know whether it's a truck, a car, a motorcycle. Now, not every car is silent, and some make noise. I just put that out there because I kind of mind. Yeah, so these ones, the cameras can detect an amount of rate of speed, but not the speed itself. By working out the distance between the microphones and measuring them, then they could have a pretty fair idea at how fast you are going, that either the traffic is stationary, it's slow moving, or it's at speed. And I mean at speed, at the speed limit. For a survey, that's all that's required. But because there was 4 feed roads that go to a single lane in either direction over a railway line where I live, and they're about to make these single lane roads dual carriageways of 2 lanes in either direction. They're hoping to improve the backup of traffic, which would be good. It would be very good. I know at the end of my street, I know it's irrelevant to everybody, but it really should be a roundabout. It's not even a set of lights, it's just a T intersection, and it should be a roundabout to allow the people in our street to get in and out effectively. Because we live in the land. I live in the land of roundabouts and potholes. Some potholes, if your wheel goes in it, your axle will hit the road deck because it's so deep. And it's not a little pothole. I mean, it's maybe, probably 1.5 feet across the hole, just for my American audience. Probably at least 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter. Like, it's a full round circle, and it's deeper than half my wheel height. So my axle would scrape on the ground, and people blow their tires on these things all the time. It's just, honestly, it's terrible. They're resurfacing a road right near me because it was only potholes. I mean, only potholes. There was no roadway at all that was left, and all the patching just disappeared as soon as it rained the next time. It was just completely awful. I took a video of all the cars trying to drive a straight line, but they would have to veer on the opposite side of the road because there was, potholes honestly so deep that we used to make jokes about them. And one of them that had a Facebook birthday of being there for 1 year, and everyone knew it was there. And it was honestly getting worse by the minute. And we ended up having to do a petition to the council for them to repair the road, and they've only just finished 2 weeks of prep, and now we have to wait 2 weeks before they then do the resurfacing on it. But they took it down about a yard deep, about 1 meter deep, and replaced it all, rolled it all, built it up again, and fingers crossed, I mean really, that it'll be better and not be all washed away in the first rain. That'd be funny. But having said that, the roads, wherever you live in the world, are they lasting like they used to? It's a good question, because we had nearly 2 years of rain. It rained for nearly 2 years, almost almost every day. It's probably the worst it's ever been in my living memory. And oh, okay. So Guillermo says, state of Idaho likes 3-lane alternating passing lanes. Yeah, good on you. Alternating passing lanes. So that means the middle lane itself is the passing lane. Is that right? Because we've got roads like that, so it's only 2 lanes, and every once in a while it opens up to 3 lanes, and only on one side is a passing lane, usually before an uphill, so you can go past trucks or whatever, and then it closes back to only 1 lane in either direction, and then the other side will open up with a passing lane that you can't access. Is that what you mean, Guillermo? Let me know. So, oh, goodness me. What else is there? There's nothing really. Just looking through all of these stories, and I'm really not interested in talking about any of them. Oh, no. I'm not going to talk about that either. Do you know how much self-policing we have to do now? We have to self-censor, because Australia could very well get this censorship law of mis and disinformation of whatever the government says is mis or disinformation by classification. They can just change it. They go, oh, like, that's what it is today. And it'll disappoint us greatly if we don't end up with a free speech. We would love an amendment of free speech. Always 2 on one side. Yeah, that's fair. And it would then alternate, Guillermo, I'm presuming, with 3 minutes left of the show, right? Yeah. So, look, needless to say, when I posted all this information about the traffic surveying, it was good to see that people understood then. They thanked me for the, gracefully, I suppose I accepted it, but they thanked me for the info, because people were beginning to worry what this stuff was, and what were they testing something out? Were we going to start to see fines? Are they going to fine people with loud cars? Let's hope not. I'm hoping not, because that would be bad. Australia got a New South Wales, the state jurisdiction that I'm in. They ended up having a rule that said they could have a speed camera without any warning. So as you approached it, there wouldn't be any warning, and it would be concealed within a vehicle, and the vehicle would just look like any other parked vehicle on the side of the road, and you could be issued a ticket from it. I've seen images from around the world, and some of those, the plastic bins you put out on the street to get collected, I've seen those cameras hidden inside those, so it just looks like a row of bins, trash cans, and that can be really bad. But in America, you don't lose points on your license. We have, I think it's 12 points or something, and if you lose all 12, your license is taken from you. You have to wait a certain amount of time to be able to build those points back up in order to be able to get a license again. So not only is there a fine, I'd be lucky if I lived in a country or a state jurisdiction where there was only a fine that you could, a nominal fee fine for speeding. But of course I don't speed, and I have a clear record, driving history, which I'm very proud of. And I learnt my lessons when I was very, very young to driving, that it was wrong. So, and I treat, because I race online, I get it all out there, but I treat all the streets, the public roads, all of those, just like it's pit lane with a speed. Anyway, there's the end of the first hour. I'm sorry Meki hasn't been with us, but fingers crossed he joins us for the second hour. Hopefully, If you're listening to this on YouTube, then there'll be a second video for the second hour. But in the meantime, take the time to donate, and we'll see you after this short break.